the king. Although I'm talking about David, I'm talking about Christ.
That's right.
When I talk about the fall, although I'm talking about the fall that happened in the text, I'm talking about the fall that happened with Adam. When I'm talking about this character Mephibosheth, I'm talking about the human condition. So I want you to follow. The Bible says, in all you're getting,
That's right.
get understanding. Not a breakthrough, understanding. With all you're getting, about everything you get when you come, get understanding.
That's right.
Okay? So this morning, my prayer is that you get understanding of the gospel. I will read for time's sake the first verse and the last verse. And David said, is there still any left of the house of Saul, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake? Verse 13. So Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem, for he ate always at his table. Now he was lame in both feet. The passage, I want to set the context, because the context, apart from this chapter and verse break, if you read it, chapter 8 would have flowed right into chapter 9 without we put breaks in it. If it would be like one story. But because they want things easier to find in the Bible, we insert these chapter and verses to make things easier to find. But if you were to read it, it would be like one story. So to go back and set the context, you have to go to chapter 8. Because in chapter 9, it said, and David said. In chapter 8, what we see here is the king has become victorious. In chapter 8, verse 12, he has subdued 8 nations. Sorry, 6 nations. The enemy is now defeated. Edom is defeated, Moab is defeated, Amorite is defeated, Philistine is defeated, Amalek is defeated, and this fellow named Adadezer, which is mean helper, a false helper, is defeated. And because he is defeated, this king named Toi in verse 8 and 9 send to David a blessing. He went to pay respect because he said, you defeat this Adadezer, I will bow to you. So now David conquered the enemy. Now the nations are bowing before him. And he established his kingdom in verse 16. In verse 16, he have the army. Joab is the head of the army. Josaphat is over the recorder. He is like over Naira. Zodiac and Abimelech were priests. I will get to this twofold priesthood in the second year. Sherebiah is secretary. Benaniah is over the Cherethites and the Perethites. That was like the secret service. And the last thing in passage, he said, David's son were priests. Verse 13 also said, after he won, he said, David got a name. After the victory, it says he got a name. Here we have 2 priesthoods. This is unheard of in the Bible up to this point. The priesthood is only through one priest at a time. Never 2. But here we have 2 priesthoods. And you'll be like, what the heck is going on? So, the Ark of the Covenant was taken and it was left in a place called Kirjath-Jearim. But David went and get the Ark eventually. And he brought it to Jerusalem. The Ark of the Covenant was brought, not the tabernacle. Let me say, there are some tabernacles that have no glory in there. But
that's right. That's right. That's right.
So the ark is not in Jerusalem. David brought the ark to Jerusalem, and so there's two priests. In Jerusalem, it built a new tabernacle. This is it. The ark is in the city of God, and it is in a new tabernacle. He established a new protocol within this tabernacle. That is, for the first time, out of this tabernacle there will be praise to God continually. Never before, if you read up to this point, you will see the people of God worship in the tabernacle of God. It did not happen. It was deadness and silence. But for the first time, this king who have a threefold office, priest, prophet, and king, established a new protocol that to the house of God there will be worship of God 24/7. This is like the reality of Psalms 113. It says that from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same, his name should be worshipped. And David put into practice. Oh God, that there the glory is in this new tabernacle. Actually, the tabernacle is just us with the Spirit. I mean, I don't want to. So second, he said David's son were priests. At first this is complicated. No, there's two priests, but he established that his son were priests. This also seemed like it shouldn't be. But there's a priestly order as now established, not according to the Levitical priesthood. Thou art a priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek. So here he recognized that the son of the king are now priests. I will get to that again. From this council, we get to our chapter 9. He said, is there any of the house of Saul that I may show kindness? Here he turned to them around his throne and asked a question. Now notice the question. It's not whether he should show kindness. He's not asking the question, should I do this? He's not asking to what extent should I show kindness, or how many there is that need kindness. He said, is there any? Now notice to who he is showing kindness. At first, showing kindness, it is like no big deal. But to who does he want to show kindness? He said, to the house of Saul. Now for you who are Bible students or who does not know, let me pause. Let's talk about this kindness first. He wants to show kindness to the house of Saul. First, this kindness is a counterculture. King does not show kindness to their enemies.
That's right.
Second, the king is on his throne. He is victorious. He has the glory. He has riches. He don't want nothing at all. He don't lack nothing at all. It was unmerited. It is according to his own purpose and grace, according to the counsel of his will he decided to show this kindness. The kindness, he said, is secured by another. I'm not just showing kindness for kindness' sake. I'm showing it because of someone else, Jonathan.
Yes.
That's right.
This is altruism. It is selfish. There is no gain to the king to show kindness.
Right.
It will not benefit the king any at all. Nothing will be handed to the king.
That's right.
This kindness is free. No, it is an intentional. This kindness is an intentional, rebellious act against the natural human impulse. This kindness He didn't worry about what others may think, or what others may feel. Do they think I'm a fool to do it? Am I weak or stupid? I'm going to be kind. I'm going to show the kindness toward the house of Saul. No, observe is a single criteria to obtain this kindness. One requirement. It has to be from the house of Saul.
That's right.
This is according to Saul's bloodline. Notice he did not broaden it to all Israel. He didn't say, is there any in the house of Israel that I may show kindness? Are there any among the land of the Gentiles that I may show kindness? It is specific to a particular individual. The salvation of God is not to all his creation. The salvation of God is limited to one, the line of Adam. That's it. It is not for angels. It's not for demons. It's not for the created world. It is for the line of Adam. That kindness will be bestowed. It is broad, but it is limited.
Right.
Come on.
This kindness is according to election of grace. No, he said to the house of Saul. No one in the scripture is determined to see the king dead or his purpose unfilled like Saul.
Right.
Saul was determined to make sure David would never sit at the throne. The will of God would never be fulfilled in his life. He was the ultimate enemy. Twice he tried to pin David to the wall with the traveling.
That's right.
Twice he sent David into war to be killed by the Philistines.
Right.
Twice he hooked him up in false marriage, knowing that it will drive him crazy to the death. Twice he become homeless, living in caves of Adullam and Engedi. Saul pursued David, that caused David to pick up his family and move them to Moab to live like refugees. Saul was so obsessed with destroying David that even priests that helped David, he massacred 85 of God's priests because they give David some bread and water. Saul was so determined that David would not fulfill the purpose of God in his life that he pursued night and day in caves, in wilderness, in mountain. Drive David in delusionment. Twice David was flee to the land of the Gentile. In Ziklag he was driven, where he got to pretend like he was crazy to escape death. Saul was the epitome of evil.
Come on. Come on.
This is what he faced. This is who Saul is. Saul pursued David more than the Philistine, the Amorite, the Perizzite, the Amalek. David was a direct threat to Saul. Nevertheless, David says, is there any of the house of Saul? Is there any from the house of the wicked? Is there any from the bloodline of death? Is there any who transgress and try to see my purpose stop? Is there any? That I may show kindness for Jonathan's sake. Now, Jonathan, what happened? It was Saul's son.
Yes.
And Jonathan decided or understand the prophecy that a scepter will not depart from Judah until Shiloh come, that he understood that the line of Benjamin was temporary and Judah was permanent. So Jonathan bind a covenant with David, which Saul failed to admit or acknowledge. Saul wanted his line to continue. David and says, when you become king, don't forget to be kind for me.
Yes. Yes.
He recognized where the Spirit of God was. He recognized who was anointed by God. He recognized and he said to him, when you sit on the throne, don't forget to be kind to me. And David vowed.
Yes.
Now I see here a parallel. Christ has conquered it.
Yes.
The enemy is defeated.
Yes.
Like David, he got a new name. After Israel, here the nation bow before him, and the Father in heaven, looking around his throne and said, is there any? Is there any from the bloodline of Adam that I may show kindness?
Yes.
Is there any from the bloodline of Adam I may bestow my favor?
Yes.
One criteria, are you from that bloodline? Then this is for you.
Come on.
Are you from this bloodline? Then this kindness is limited to you. It is open, not to me. It's any. Now David, around his throne, asked a question. And through whatever inquiry, a man in verse 3 and 4, named Ziba was brought to the king. It says in verse 3 and 4, then the king said, is there still any of the house of Saul that I may show Saul, to whom I may show kindness, the kindness of God? And Ziba said to the king, there is still a son of Jonathan who is lame on his feet. So the king said, where is he? And Ziba said to the king, indeed, he's in the house of Machir, the son of Amiel in Lodabar. So the king asked, through whatever inquiry, this man was found and brought to the king named Ziba. In verse 3, the king asked 3 questions to verify himself, are you Ziba? It tells us he asked about, in this case, Saul's bloodline, and Ziba answered. Now let's have a look about Ziba. Ziba we see from the text, 1, is a former servant of Saul's kingdom. He identified now as David's servant. He was prominent in verse 9, tells us he had 15 sons and 25 servants. We'll get to this. Now the king asked Ziba the same question with a little bit more detail. He said, is there any of the house of Saul to whom I may show the kindness of God? That wasn't said before. Now we see more detail about this kindness. This is what I want to show. It is the kindness of God. This kindness then tells us something about it. 1, it will be eternal kindness. It is the kindness of God. It will be immutable kindness or unchangeable kindness. It is the kindness of God. It will be loving kindness. It is the kindness of God. It will be faithful and gracious kindness. It is the kindness of God. It will be a sovereign kindness. It is the kindness of God. It will be a faithful kindness. It is the kindness of God. This kindness is wrapped up with God's characters. Observe from the text again. It said that I may show it. This kindness the king wants to put on display. This is no secret kindness. I want this kindness to be broadcast. I want it to be visual. I want it to see. I want it to be observed. It will be like bringing out this kindness.
Yes.
I want to show it, to put it on display. The kindness of God I want to put on display. Ziba answered in 3 and 4, Jonathan has a son which is lame on his feet. Is there still a child, anyone left? King, I hear you. I hear what you said. But think about what you're saying. There is a one, but there's a caveat. It is broken. He is lame. He is paralyzed. He is slow. He is a little bit awful, king. I'm not sure you want to put your grace of God upon that.
Come on.
But what he did here, clarify, he said, is there any? The king's state is there any? That is the key. Any. Which means, is there infinite amount? Any means there is no limited amount. Is infinite.
Come on.
There is no specification with any. Any means highlight whatever identity, quality, condition. It allows for choice. There is no restriction to any. Any is the whosoever in John 3:16.
Right.
Come on.
Any means the king has no respecter of person.
Yes.
Is there any from the house of Adam that can confess with their mouth and believe in their heart that God, that Jesus Christ is Lord, and that God raised him from the dead? This kindness is yours.
Jesus.
Is there any that can confess with your mouth, believe in your heart that Jesus Christ is Lord and God raised him from the dead? You too can experience this kindness. Is there any?
Yes.
Notice here that Ziba pointed out to the king the person, physical location and condition. He said he is lame and he's in Lodabar. He pointed out that his physical location and his condition that he's in. Now, why was he lame? So the story was, Saul went to war and got shot and died. And Saul's sons, 3 of them, got shot and died. Someone bring the news to the family and said, Jonathan and Saul is dead. They are fallen. They are fallen. A nurse picked up Mephibosheth. He was 5. And tried to get away in haste. It says Mephibosheth fell and was lame in his feet. He didn't say she fell. He said he fell and was lame in his feet. And they take him, lame Mephibosheth, and stick him in a place called Lodabar. Now, Lodabar is a place meaning no pasture. It is, on the map, it is opposite side of the river. It is opposite side of the river Jordan. Meaning, this is the wilderness, this is the promised land, this is Jordan. Jordan was a physical barrier towards God's promise. The reason the children of Israel stuck in the wilderness for 40 years was because of Jordan. It was the landmark between the land of promise and the wilderness. And here they bring Mephibosheth in Lodabar, away from the land of promise. Here, Lodabar means desolation, barrenness, poverty. It is like an old orphanage. It is like a desolate foster home. It is like an old asylum. It is like a refugee camp. They stick him and abandon him there. Now let's recap a second here. So here this man is in Lodabar. Stop in this place. And let's recap what happened to him. His wanted to die, and when they would not help him to die, he committed suicide. His daddy Jonathan got shot and dead. His first uncle got shot and dead. Second uncle got shot and dead. Third uncle got shot and dead. Fourth uncle, 2 years later, got stabbed and decapitated in his bed. This is his legacy. This is what Mephibosheth is living with in Lodabar. Family trauma. The men in my life died early. They got shot and dead. This is what I am living with. And I'm crippled. I am broken in Lodabar. In Lodabar. So now he's here. Mephibosheth with an S. In Lodabar, I live with abandonment. They dump him here. Even with family trauma, they leave him there. Even with PTSD, for he's been touched by the healthcare system, by the alternative parents, by someone loved one, and now he's more broken than they're finding. Mephibosheth a body image problem. Look at my feet; they don't work. Mephibosheth in Lodabar and living with fear. Fear that the king may find him and kill him. Mephibosheth is living in secrecy. I can reveal my true self. They reveal this may cost me. Mephibosheth is living with pain. He's broken and there is no fix. Mephibosheth is living with the regret of what is and what could be. Mephibosheth is living with shame. I'm now a beggar in Lodabar. Don't be surprised I'm at the bar in Lodabar. Don't be surprised I am addicted in Lodabar. Mephibosheth is the one who is behind bar in Lodabar. A cycle of recidivism. Mephibosheth living with hopelessness, helplessness, depression. Mephibosheth living with the guilt of what if. What if I was bigger? What if I could run? What if she didn't touch me? What if my family did this and happened to my family? What if my family was so much drama? What if? Stop in the state of what if. Mephibosheth is acting like Job. Why do I live? Mephibosheth in Lodabar questioned the very existence of life. Why didn't I die at birth? Why did my mama feed me? Why did something just kill me? Life would be better in the grave. I would be at rest. Life is a drag. Every step forward, I'm gonna drag. Mephibosheth's simple task is a burden. Mephibosheth can provide. He's a broke beggar in Lodabar. Oh my God! Do you see Mephibosheth? This is the effect of the fall upon Mephibosheth. Here we see that despite all this thinking, all this brokenness, all this thought about suicide and wishing to die, the king is asking, is there any? The king is still asking, is there any? So verse 5, we see the king did something. He sent a delegation. Focus on the word send, which means the one that's been commissioned.
Come on.
The king did not go himself. The king sent a delegation. Some prophets, some apostles, prophets, evangelists, teachers, and pastors. The king sent a delegation. And here we know, one person we know that know Mephibosheth's location and condition is Ziba. So Ziba was the one who leading this delegation. I'll get to that. And the king sent them. Now notice here, they brought him to the king. Verse 5. They did not bring him to Jerusalem, though it was the city of God. They didn't bring him to the tabernacle. Though there was music and joy, they didn't bring him there. They bring him to the king. The king gave them the word. It was not that they're going to talk about themselves to Mephibosheth. It is the message of grace. Come to me, all you are laden, and I will give you rest. Come to me, don't go to Jerusalem. Come to me, all let some who are laden, and I will give you rest. Mephibosheth they bring to the king. And the verse said, he fell before the king.
That's right.
He fell before the king. Mephibosheth could not stand.
Come on.
But he can fall. Mephibosheth thinks that it was you fall to get in this place. No, it has been fall before the king. Can you get you out of this mess? Can you fall before the king?
Come on.
Yes,
Come
yes.
on.
No, he prostrated himself before the king. Not because it was reverent, it was terror. Mephibosheth had heard from Shimei, David has killed 10,000. He had heard that David has slew from a board the Goliath of his day. David is destroyed the enemy. Mephibosheth heard from Shimei that David was someone to fear. Do not listen to these people about the king. Bad theology. He fell before the king. Notice the king, the first thing the king did. Are you Mephibosheth? The first time in the story, someone mentioned his name. Up to this point, no one had mentioned his name. It is the king, which by calling his name, it gives him his identity. It gives him his dignity. It gives him honor. It gives him respect. The king has called his name. He prostrated for the king. Mephibosheth. Notice the king sent a delegation to the highway and edges for one Mephibosheth. One Mephibosheth. He sent across the highway and hedges for one Mephibosheth. Thank you. See, I appreciate it. Second, he says, do not fear. Do not fear, verse 7. Here he was in terror. Mephibosheth, do not fear. I am a covenant-keeping king. Do not fear, Mephibosheth. Before you were born, I have made a covenant to bless you. Before the kingdom was established, I have vowed to be kind to you. Do not fear, Mephibosheth. You don't know how long I've been waiting to do this for you. Mephibosheth, do not fear. Do not fear. I made a vow and I will perform it, Mephibosheth. I'm not a man that I should lie, Pastor. No, it's not a man that I should repent. If I say it, I will perform.
Come on.
Thank you, Jesus.
Mephibosheth, I said, do not fear. What he was doing that is he put into death the enmity between the house of Saul and the house of David. Between the Adamic and the Christ. Put to death. Don't fear. Here the king also is making reconciliation.
That's right.
Don't fear. Come. I'm reconciling you. I have break down the middle wall of partition. The enemy between us is dead. Jonathan has done the work. I have made a vow. Don't fear, Mephibosheth. You have a king here.
That's right.
Up to this point, Mephibosheth, dear, listen to this. Up to this point, the king could stop. And said, Mephibosheth, I will no longer kill you. Don't worry. Go back to Lodabar or wherever you want. You don't need to live in terror and fear. Nobody gonna harm you. Nobody gonna affect you. Come and go to Jerusalem as you wish. That will be fine. That is kindness and mercy. But our God is a God of grace.
Yes, he is.
All grace. The next part of the text is this thing between mercy and grace. Here now we get into the gracious part of the message. The king decided to lavish his riches upon Mephibosheth. He said, Mephibosheth, I will restore to you the land of Saul. Here now the inheritance that you have lost in Saul, I will restore it to you. I own it.
That's right.
I know we have songs to sing. I will take back what the devil has stolen. Nice song. Not good theology. The king has it. Everything belongs to the king. If you go to the devil will say, I have it, he's a liar. Don't believe. The king has it. And the king said, I got it. And I will restore to you all that you have lost in Saul. I will give to you. Notice the word, I will. Notice again, he gave him all the land of Saul. Notice right here, it was not some of the land that he gave him. It's all the land. Right before him, he's on his face. All that was promised was given up front. There was no tear to cry. There was no, let me see how you do it. Let me see if you trust me or you love me. Let's see what grace is. Right here, right now, everything, all spiritual blessing is given. There is nothing to gain. There is nothing to reach for. Up from the day you fell before the king is the day all spiritual blessing is given. Don't believe that you need to climb. Prove yourself. Love the king. No. The king has a covenant, and right here, all the inheritance will be given to you. Mephibosheth, you got it. Now look at it here. Mephibosheth, this inheritance was land. But Mephibosheth was crippled. Mephibosheth was crippled. He could not benefit from the inheritance.
That's right.
So what the king did, the king commissioned Ziba. Let me say this again. The king gave the inheritance, and the king wants fruit from the land. The king wants fruit. Fruit of the spirit, fruit. But Mephibosheth can't produce fruit. So the king appointed Ziba. Look at the text. Ziba was the one who was appointed to produce fruit on the behalf of Mephibosheth. Ziba was like a spirit here that the king has given to us to help us produce fruit. And Mephibosheth here, to Mephibosheth, Ziba become a helper. It was a protector of the inheritance. Mephibosheth could take comfort in Ziba that the work that Ziba done, the king would be satisfied by the work of Ziba. Look at it, he said again. The fruit that was produced was not conditioned in Mephibosheth's position. The fruit was not a condition to Mephibosheth's position. It says, Mephibosheth shall eat at my table continually. 4 times.
Right.
It says in verse 7, verse 10, verse 11, and verse 13. He shall eat at my table continually. Ziba produced the fruit, Mephibosheth get the credit.
Come on.
Ziba is a fruit producer. Mephibosheth is the one getting the reward. This is salvation here.
That's right.
It is spirit produce spiritual fruit. And we get the credit. It is going to our account. Notice here, he said, it will be like a king's son. That That means he was adopted. The king adopted Mephibosheth. To be he was not a priest. For the king's sons were priests. Crippled people did not be priests. Now, according to this new priesthood, anyone can be priest. He will eat at my table like the king's son. Mephibosheth then says, what is this king you doing to this dead dog? You see, he still have this deficit. He know that he was dragging at the ground in Lodebar. He know of his addiction issue. He know of his thinking. He know where he has been. He know his family history. Nevertheless, the king said, oh, Mephibosheth, you will sit at my table like my sons. You will sit next to Solomon and Nathan and Tamar like my son. If I'm eating, you are eating. Who they are, you are. It didn't matter if he looked the same like them. The king says, you are accepted. Yes. It didn't matter if you struggle with Lodebar thinking, all those in the palace. The king says, you are accepted. Yes. It didn't matter if you have mental illness, physical weakness. The king says, you are accepted. It didn't matter if Lodebar, he was out of Lodebar, but Lodebar was not out of him. The king says, you are accepted. Today, can you bow before the king? And if you did, can you say, I am accepted? You are accepted by the king because of the covenant with Christ. You are accepted today. Be set in your mind. You are accepted. You don't need to earn it. You don't need to work for it. You don't need to pray for it. Just come. The king sent for him. Just come. Come. Be from the house of Adam and come. Be from the line of Adam and come. All this is yours. Let me close with last point right now. My mind go 6 months on the road. The king is there. Mephibosheth should know that there are few sons and many servants in the king's house. Mephibosheth should know there are few sons and many servants in the king's house. He can go and be like a servant because there are many, or he can live like a son. He can go there and try to mimic the servants because there are many, and a performance base, or he can be like a son. Sit at the table as a son. Free access because you are a son. No limitation because you are a son. But people can have a choice. Today, are you a servant in the kingdom? Or are you a son in the kingdom?